What's up, guys? Thank you for watching the video today. Welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Tom LaHue, and thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about type 8 and the different wings, the 8-7 and the 8-9, how they're similar, how they're different. And before we just jump into that discussion, I wanted to talk a little bit about 8s. Of course, 8s are called the challenger, or sometimes called the protector. And the 8s are in the anger triad. Or in the body triad, and the doing triad, you might say. 8s, 9s, and 1s are all in conversation. If you're having a discussion with them, maybe you're bringing up a problem with them, 8s, 9s, and 1s are all going to kind of want to get to the point and say, well, what do you want me to do? They're looking toward, doing as solving problems. 8s, 9s, and 1s are all also called self-forgetting types. The 8s forget their vulnerability, their weakness, and, kind of operate as though I need to be big in this world in order to survive. This world is a dangerous place, and only the strong survive. 9s, in that sense of self-forgetting, forget their anger and kind of go to sleep to their anger, and in maybe more of a stubborn resistance to control, operate, with the desire to not be pushed on and not to push others and to understand everybody's perspective. So you might say 8s are the most obvious of the anger types. 9s, and they self-forget the vulnerability of themselves and the weaknesses of themselves. 9s actually self-forget the anger itself. And then 1s seek to kind of control their anger by enforcing rules, by living by the rules that, their own internal rules, but then also enforcing and structuring and restructuring and reforming the world. So let's talk about 8s here a little bit. 8s are strong people. They are energetic people. They believe that they are capable and powerful, and they will be empowered people who seek to empower others. They have an anti-authoritarian stance, or what might be called, I like this, quote-unquote, auto-rebellion. Okay, so you 8s out there watching this video, that may be a new phrase for you, but auto-rebellion means the natural sense of the 8 is, sort of, who are you to tell me? Who do you think you are that you can tell me, how I should live or how I should think or how I should act? And so there's this natural tendency toward an automatic, response or an automatic rebellion. That could be more direct and vocalized probably by the 8-7, and then more passive and resistant like the 8-9. But that sense of auto-rebellion, I think, is an interesting phrase for an 8. 8s want to assert themselves. They want to assert. They wake up not thinking about themselves and not thinking about what others think about themselves. They resist, seeking the approval of others. They aren't necessarily tuned into that. They're tuned into, where's the power center? Who has the power? Are they using their power appropriately? Is there injustice? And then, that vengeance can be a big thing for 8s as well, in seeking retribution and seeking justice for others. But 8s want to dominate their environment. They want to have control over their environment. They often feel like they had to grow up too early, like maybe the place they were growing up in wasn't stable or might not be safe, or they needed to keep others safe and they needed to protect themselves or protect others. And so their defense, in a sense, is going on offense, is to be a big offense and to create a big offense, and to be a big person and to be a grown-up person is to be a powerful person. Others can't take advantage of you. They can't victimize you, or they can't take advantage and victimize maybe your little brothers and sisters, whoever's under your charge to protect. And so 8s seek to grow up, to be bold, to be big, to overcome They hate deceit. They hate manipulation. They hate and despise, anybody who is taking advantage of the weak, anybody who's trying to take advantage of them, anybody who doesn't stand up for themselves and isn't direct in their communication and what they want. 8s are going to be direct and tell you what they want and go after what they want. And again, they're waking up not thinking about themselves. They're waking up thinking, what needs to be done. There's a tendency in 8s to blame others when things don't work out, to look for those who are to blame. That vengeance, aspect may show up in various ways in their life. Everything from, why is the gas price higher today than it was yesterday? Who's to blame for this? There are pickles on my hamburger. I asked for there to be no pickles on my hamburger. Who's to blame for this? This could get exhausting for people living with 8s because, most of us accept that things just happen and we often roll with those changes and then just, adapt to those changes. But 8s, might not be able to let it go so easy sometimes. They might feel compelled to go after the person who's to blame, to correct this, to make it right, to straighten it out, to... I could see where that could be, a tendency in some 8s, if to over exaggerate a problem, and to go into that 5 investigator mode of, who did this and who wasn't paying attention, who's to blame for the, and I could see where an 8 could sometimes maybe start fights when there doesn't need to be a fight. 8s could also end fights. They could also, bring fights to an end, bring fights to a close, just giving directives and stopping conflict as well. They could be creators of conflict and they could stop conflict. 8s are highly motivated, powerful individuals that want to wake up and accomplish, goals. And let's go ahead and start getting into some of the wings because I'm already starting to think in those categories. Like the 8-7, I think, is called the independent or the maverick. And they're going to have more of, quote unquote, a wheeler-dealer mentality or a, nature about them, where not only do they, want to overcome obstacles and be powerful and big, but they may want to initiate others. They may want to draw others in and motivate others and bring others in and really be that, group leader or that leader. Where the 8-9, I think, is going to tend to be more passive, less extroverted. The 8-7 is going to be more extroverted. The 8-9 is going to tend to be more introverted and not have that wheeler-dealer mentality, not have that entrepreneurial. That's the positive way of saying wheeler-dealer, I guess. I think the 8-7 is going to be more entrepreneurial, more like here's an opportunity, here's where we can make something better. Let's get the big picture. Let's challenge what is and let's do what needs to be done in order to initiate this new venture. And I think the 8-9 is going to be more passive. They're going to be more resilient, more stubborn than the 8-7, and not have that I need to go and lead people as much as I'm going to be careful who leads me. They're going to be more of a responder and less of an activist. I think the 8-7 is going to be more of an activist, more take positive action. They're going to see the 8-ness displayed more in taking positive action that they want, when they want, how they want. And the 8-9 is going to be, you're going to see that 8 challenger more in how they resist others and take a more passive, stubborn approach, a more resilient approach. Okay, so let's talk about this, the 8-7, the independent. The 8-7 is going to have a more forceful, engaging personality than probably the 8-9. They're going to be more forceful, more direct, more moving around from place to place, conversation to conversation, environment to environment. Because what you're doing is you're mixing that 8 challenger energy that I'm big, I'm powerful, I'm strong, and also the sin, the lust, that people exist for my use and my purposes, things exist for my use and my purposes, which is what lust is. And you're blending that with the 7 energy of, I don't want to miss out on all these opportunities. I don't want to, I want to see what's next. I want to see what else is out there. So you take that powerful, dynamic, I'm in control of my life, I'm not going to be mastered by anyone else, and things and people exist for my use, and blend it with the 7 of what else is out there, that gluttony. And that's really a powerful person, and maybe you might say the most dynamic, powerful person on the entire Enneagram is the 8-7. And I don't mean like they're the best person or anything. I'm just saying they can be a force to be reckoned with, okay? Because you're mixing that intensity, that lust of that insatiable lust intensity with a need for more and a desire for what else. This is going to be an entrepreneur. This is going to be somebody who doesn't want the restrictions of a 9-to-5 workday, but isn't afraid to wake up and work all day. So this is a person that's going to want to work for themselves. The independent, that's the name of the 8-7, the independent. They want to work for themselves. They don't want to be obligated to others. Money is seen as protective to keep from being controlled and managed by others. So you get a lot of money so that you don't have to depend on others. Independent, you don't have to depend on others, and you can't be controlled and manipulated by others. You can do what you want when you want, and there's no restrictions. That probably sounds like heaven to an 8-7. Do what you want when you want, and nobody can, manipulate you or control you. And that is a dynamic person. That is a powerful person to deal with. Okay, and could be a great force for good. A great force for good. A very motivated person, a very self-motivated person. And I think the 8-7 is going to more motivate others, where the 8-9 is probably going to be more restrained and not as motivational a person, although they could be a highly motivated person. The 8-9 is going to be far more motivated, like at work, and then come home and chill, okay? You'll see almost maybe like a dualism in the 8-9, where they go to work and they're very motivated, very strong, very opinionated, very controlling of their office, their classroom, their floor, whatever they're in charge of, they're going to be in charge of it. But then they're going to come home and probably relax, and be much more easygoing, much more laid back, not near as driven as they would be in another environment like the workplace. The 8-7 is going to look, I think, more motivated. They're going to look more motivated more of the time. They're going to be more of a risk taker and more impulsive. Well, 7s are impulsive, right? So that 7-ness is going to blend into the 8-ness of I'm powerful and what's next? What opportunity is next? Moving toward the next big deal and closing deals and, making things happen and making new ventures happen. They're probably going to be more sociable and more talkative. The 8-7 be more sociable, more talkative, maybe more argumentative, more debate oriented. Convince me I'm wrong, more challenging in their conversations, more bantering, like I said, more argumentative, more self-disciplined. I don't know that the 8-7 is more self-disciplined. I shouldn't say that. I think 8-7s and 8-9s will both be very self-disciplined. In health, be self-disciplined. Maybe more self-disciplined when it comes to I'm going to let that go for now. Okay, competitive. I think the 8-7 could be quite competitive, more than the 8-9. I don't think the 8-9 is going to be all that competitive. You do your thing, I'll do my thing. I think that's much more the 8-9. You do your thing, I'll do my thing. Both are going to be very confident, independent thinkers. Neither one are really trying to gain people's approval. A quick mind. An 8-7 is going to have a very quick mind. They're going to envision a lot of practical possibilities of what could be done. They're going to be probably a little more charismatic, a little bit able to attract supporters for their goals and projects and ideas, and to join them in their vision than the 8-9. The 8-9 is probably going to be more of a loner. The 8-7 is going to want to argue with people and talk them around and show them how this idea is great, and then maybe motivate them to join the team a little bit more than the 8-9. 8-7s are very action-oriented and want to have a big impact on their world, and probably will have a big impact on their world. Like I said, they're very dynamic people. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And their superpower is superpower. Okay? They are also good at challenging others to stretch their abilities and to get others to believe in themselves and to believe in the possibilities, to empower people. That's a good positive word for what 8s want to do. They want to empower people and really share their power, with them. I think 6s will share their anxiety with you and cause you to be concerned about things that maybe you haven't been concerned about. Okay? 8s are going to share their power with you and challenge you to be a more powerful person, less addicted to people's approval, more focused on what do you want to accomplish in life, and why don't you, set some goals and accomplish those things in life, and quit listening to other people and don't let other people dictate for you. That auto rebellion, okay? That sense of rebellion. Okay, they're going to be more entrepreneurial, more interested in creating projects that will further strengthen their posture of independence. So 8-7s particularly, but I think all 8s are going to be interested in any kind of venture that will firm up the walls to their castle, their fortress, and help them to remain more independent, and less reliant on other people's help and assistance. Probably for all 8s, asking for help is like you'd rather eat rocks. You'd rather grab a handful of dirt and eat it than to go to somebody and say, hey, I need your help. I've made a mess of things and I need somebody to bail me out. Probably most 8s would rather eat a handful of garbage than to utter those words. That weakness, that vulnerability, that's again what you forget. That's kind of the glitch, is that I can't do that. I can't let people know I'm vulnerable or that that I have my weaknesses. But there's a great strength. This is a challenge for 8s. There's a great strength in accepting your weakness. There's a great strength in admitting that you may not have what it takes for this particular encounter. That can be a great strength, and it could take a lot of strength to admit that. So, that's something I think that could challenge 8s. 8s, you like to challenge us, so let me challenge you. It can be a very good, healthy place for you to admit sometimes that maybe you need help, or maybe that you're in over your head. I think when 8s get in over their head, you'll see them move to 5 and just withdraw. Their tendency is to to leave, is to get out. It's so uncomfortable that that you'll see that assertive 8 become a withdraw from the conversation and just leave, rather than to maybe, accept that maybe I need some help and maybe I need some assistance, and maybe I'm a little bit dependent on other people. That's going to be hard for 8s. Okay, the 8-7 is also going to be adventurous, probably a risk taker. They're going to have big plans, and they're going to talk about those big plans. And anybody that doesn't agree with my big plans, now's your chance to combat with me, to convince me, to argue with me, to show me why I'm wrong. And 8s will do that. They'll get into that bantering and that give and take and that exchange, and they enjoy that. It's fuel for them. It's fuel to be challenged, and they appreciate when people are direct with them. They appreciate when people, stand up for themselves and what they believe, and challenge their thoughts and challenge their opinions. And so, The 8-7 is probably going to have some big plans and want to enlist others to cooperate with those plans. Again, they're going to be more sociable, more talkative, more outgoing, have a great sense of self-confidence. People are drawn to them as leaders because 8s are in the doing group, so they do before they think. So it would be helpful for 8s to pause. That could be a big word for you as an 8, is just to pause. Before you go into action mode, is to stop and think about, is this my fight? Do I need to get in this fight? What do I really have to gain from this fight? It doesn't matter. Does somebody really need to be blamed? Is there some injustice that really needs to be stopped? Or is this real truth, or is this just my version of truth? So pausing could be a big help for 8s before they just go right into action, to like do a little strategic thinking or do a little strategic feeling, which is probably even harder. Okay. So 8s are going to be perceived by others as leaders because they're willing to take action. And as they start moving forward, other people say, well, it looks like they know what they're doing, so I'm just going to get in line behind them. Okay, so yeah, I think 8-7s could maybe exaggerate a little bit. Now, 8s hate deceit, right? But I think the 8-7 is probably a little prone not to being deceitful, but maybe exaggerating. Why? They've exaggerated their own strength. 8s have exaggerated their own sense of themselves, their own sense of their powerfulness. And so, I think the 8, particularly the 8-7, might exaggerate a little bit, in order to show themselves as a powerful person, or that their plans are great plans, or that, that they're a winner. That they are capable, that they are effective. They might exaggerate the truth just a little bit, and they may not realize they're doing this, because I think for an 8, their truth is the truth. Okay, and so they might exaggerate. It may come across to others who go, wait a minute, I was there. I was at that, meeting, and I don't remember, it being said like that or being done like that. And the 8, I think, could be a little bit of an and that's that wheeler dealer. There you go. That's that wheeler dealer entrepreneurial aspect of particularly the 8-7, where they might exaggerate events and things just a little bit. Prone to, not that they do it, but they're prone to. Okay, and exaggerate the potential of what their ventures or what their big plans might accomplish. Making big promises, you might say. Sociable, talkative, outgoing, great confidence, pragmatic, practical. Again, what are we going to do if we're not challenged to do something or challenging others to do something? Why are we talking? Why are we having this conversation if you're not telling me what to do? Pragmatic and practical. 8s are very pragmatic and practical people, especially 8-7s. Competitive, not overly concerned with pleasing others. They don't want to put up with weakness or incompetence with others. Incompetence is a big problem for 8s when they see people as being incompetent, especially when those people are in leadership positions. That's going to be a great frustration to 8s to see somebody who's incompetent, somebody who is weak, somebody who, won't stand up for themselves. To see those people in power is going to be a great frustration to 8s. 8-7s might be a little more openly aggressive than 8-9. Again, 8-9 are going to be more, I think, steady and more like on a defensive posture than an offensive posture. Their 8-7s are going to be more confrontational than an 8-9, and probably less likely to back down from a fight. More dynamic, more in your face, more direct. More on the attack and more offensive. I don't mean offensive like I don't like being around you, but offensive or like an offensive odor. I mean offensive like more on the offense, more like going after it. Okay, the 8-7. The 8-9 is more defensive. So let's talk about the 8-9. The 8-9 is called the bear, or you could also maybe think the heavyweight. Okay, again, a bear. Just think about a bear, for example. A bear, isn't going out on the attack trying to kill humans, okay? But if you mess with the bear's den, the cubs, the cave, you poke the bear too many times, The bear's not going out looking for a fight necessarily, but if you bring the fight to the bear, you know what you're going to get, right? I think the 8-7 is going to be a little more aggressive, offensive, and go after it, and the 8-9 is going to be more reserved, more passive. That 9 energy, you're mixing the lust with sloth, okay? You're mixing that people exist and things exist for my purpose and my use with that sense of, that balancing that 9 of that, well, who am I? I need to understand other people's opinions and, more laid back, more passive. That 9ness is in a withdrawn state. When you got an 8 and a 7, you're dealing with assertive. Both types are assertive. The 9 is withdrawn. So you're mellowing out that 9 and bringing some balance, to all that assertive energy. Okay, so this person, you think of them as strong and self-confident. I think those are accurate, explanations or definitions. Determined, and here's a good word for an 8-9, grounded. Okay, a grounded person. They know who they are. They know what they want. They know what they'll put up with. They know what they'll tolerate. But maybe they're not taking the fight so much to others. They're just prepared to fight when that fight comes to them. This is a grounded person, a resilient person, a steady person, a methodical person, protective of their inner circle, and 8-7s are as well. But like the bear, think like the mama bear, okay? Cool and collected. That's a good way to describe an 8-9. They're going after what they want. They've got goals. They're waking up with the list of what needs to be done. But they're probably a little more concerned with their world and their work, a little more focused on the quality of their own work than maybe judging the quality of your work. Where the 8-7 might tend to look over and say, hey, over there, that's not being done right. That over there needs to, I think the 8-9 is going to be a little bit more focused on what they're doing and that they're doing their job correctly or doing their job, that they're controlling their environment, and they may not pay as much attention to other people's environments, okay? Less aggressive than the 8-7, maybe a little more stubborn than the 8-7, more reserved, more introverted. So think, a gentleness under a strong exterior. There's a gentleness about an 8-9 that may be a little more pronounced than in the 8-7, where the 8-7 is very dynamic, very outgoing, very boisterous, very, the 8-9 is going to be a little more gentle, more reserved, more stubborn, more passive, more introverted. Okay, all those things. Steadier in their pursuit of their goals, not as openly aggressive, and not as openly perturbed and upset or upsettable, okay? They're a little less likely to respond or react, a little less reactive than the 8-7. The 8-7 is going to be more reactive. They're going to be, the 8-9 is known to be a little warmer, more family-oriented, more peaceful, less of that entrepreneurial spirit. They want to be independent and work at their own pace. And their presence can be very reassuring and calming to others. And they have that sense of calmness about them, but also that strength, that 8 strength with that 9 calmness. Okay? Let's see. Again, they manifest themselves maybe differently in different areas of their life. They might be a real go-getter and dynamic in one environment and much more passive and laid back in another. Maybe more warm, affectionate at home, and more determined and aggressive at work. You might see that in how they, work. Strategic and watchful. They size people up. I think all 8 size people up to see, do these people know what they're talking about? Do these people really, are they prepared? Are they adequate to do the job? Are they competent or incompetent? watching the body language of others. I think both could come across friendly while they're doing this. They're sizing you up, but they may come across friendly. And sort of work with that resolve of like they're going to get stuff done, and almost like daring you to underestimate them and their ability. 8s often get promoted even though they aren't always necessarily seeking it, because they're just steady, driven, strong, dominant, maybe even domineering, and keep the big picture in mind. And that can make them highly valuable people in the workplace and great leaders, dynamic leaders, powerful leaders when they're healthy and when they're working for, others, which is, I think, in an 8's nature to do that, to not just be about themselves, but to try to make things better for the underdog and try to make things better for the average person. So hopefully that helps you understand a little bit more of, the difference, but a little bit more nuances of 8 and also the differences between the 8-7 and the 8-9. I hope that's helpful to you, and maybe you can better identify yourself, or be more understanding of the people in your life that are 8s and how to get along with them. I was just looking at another book the other day about what to do to get along with an 8. Stand your ground, stay firm, be forthright, speak your own truth, support me when I do reveal softer, more vulnerable feelings. That's interesting. Ways to get along with an 8. All right. Well, as always, be present to life. And what does that mean for an 8? It means, maybe is this a fight you need to be in? Is this action you need to take right now? You could go right into action and come out with both fists flying, but do you really need to? And I think being present to life could also mean that a lot of life doesn't need a fighter. A lot of life needs a nurturer. And it's within 8s to do that, when they're present and when they're secure and when they're healthy. After all, they go to 2. I mean, they go to the giver, the helper, the pleaser. So, I think knowing when, you need to pull out that boxer and knowing when you need to pull out that caregiver could be helpful for an 8. That not every encounter, needs a fighter. Not every encounter needs a justice warrior. That some encounters that you're in just need a friend, or a passive friend even, and that can be challenging to an 8. That to let their guard down and to relax, and to be present with people and not immediately go into, well, here's what you need to do. Sometimes you just have to listen to people. You just have to demonstrate concern for people. And, share your feelings with people. You don't have to go into, well, here's what you need to do mode. Here's how you fix this. Here's where you went wrong. Here's how you ought to. Sometimes, people just want a confidant. They don't necessarily need a protector. They just want a friend to share their time with. They don't necessarily need, solutions to their problems, or energy to fix their problems. They might just want a companion. That could be hard for an 8, maybe. All right. Thank you, guys. I'll see you next time, and blessings.